There are two questions that everyone asks me when it comes to the disappearance of Brian Shaffer. Did he leave of his own accord, or was he the victim of foul play? Through our investigation, we are hoping to find answers to those questions. I am your host, Kelly Bruce, and this is Brian Shaffer, Dead or Alive, the man behind the mystery. Brian Randall Shaffer, a second-year medical student at The Ohio State University, is a missing adult from Columbus, Ohio. Brian was last seen on April 1, 2006 on CCTV outside the Ugly Tuna Saloona at 1:55 a.m. He was 27 years old at the time of his disappearance and would be 40 years old today. Brian is a white male that is approximately 6 foot 2 inches tall and 170 pounds with brown hair and hazel eyes. He was last seen wearing an olive green polo shirt with a long-sleeve white shirt underneath, denim jeans, and white tennis shoes. He was also wearing a yellow cancer awareness bracelet. Brian has a black spot on his left iris and a Pearl Jam stickman tattoo on his upper right arm. If you have any information on the disappearance of Brian Shaffer, please contact the Columbus Police Department at 614-645-4545. I have been researching the disappearance of Brian Shaffer for years. I don't think there is a comment or message board that I haven't read on the internet. The sheer number of comments or threads about Brian is insane. A quick scroll through Google will lead you to numerous articles, videos, and podcasts telling the story of Brian's disappearance. However, one thing we rarely hear about is Brian Shaffer and the person he was prior to April 1, 2006. I feel to truly understand Brian's disappearance, we need a better understanding of Brian. On February 11, 1979, Brian Randall Shaffer made his entrance into this world and blessed the home of his parents, Randy and Renee Parabeck Shaffer. Randy was an electrician and Renee was a nurse. They were living a quiet life with their new son in Baltimore, Ohio. 2 years later, the Shaffer family was blessed again with the birth of Brian's brother, Derek. Life for the Shaffer family was like any other family, such as spending time with extended family and taking family vacations in the summer. Soon, Brian was in elementary school, and then in what seemed like a blink of an eye, high school. During high school, Brian developed into a star tennis player and found his niche for music. With their creation of grunge music in the 90s and bands like Pearl Jam and Nirvana, Brian was inspired to pick up a guitar and grow his hair out. It quickly became his dream to play in a band someday. Very soon after picking up the guitar, Brian and a couple of friends from high school started a band. They even played a couple gigs at high school house parties. High school was going great for Brian as he continued to excel in tennis and play with his band. Brian was 2 games away from the state tournament when his tennis coach told Brian he needed to cut his hair. Instead of cutting his hair, Brian, the tennis team captain, decided to quit. In May of 1997, Brian Shaffer graduated from Pickerington High School in Pickerington, Ohio. That same year, Brian began working at JCPenney Outlet and met Shelley, and the two began dating steadily. Ultimately, Brian and Shelley stayed together close to 8 years. In August of 1997, Brian began his college education at Ohio University Lancaster branch for a degree in business and a minor in computer science. He attended classes at this location for 1 year. After a short hiatus from school and an OVI in March of 1999, Brian decided it was time to get his life back on track. In August of 1999, Brian went to his first class as a student at The Ohio State University. His close bond with his mother and her career as a nurse coaxed Brian into furthering his education to become a doctor. Brian's major was microbiology with a minor in molecular genetics. Brian Shaffer graduated from The Ohio State University in May of 2003. Brian took a year off school and worked as a radiology tech assistant at The Ohio State University Hospital from May 2003 until July 2004. In August of 2004, Brian went to his first day as a student at The Ohio State University College of Medicine. His first year of medical school passed by with sleepless nights due to studying, but ultimately a success. The summer of 2005 was exciting for Brian. He took a trip to Puerto Rico with college co-eds and began dating medical school co-ed Alexis Wagner. It seemed to everyone that knew the pair that their relationship was getting serious. The meeting of Alexis was great for Brian, but 2005 took a traumatic turn when his mother, Renee, was diagnosed with cancer. In August of 2005, Brian began his second year at the Ohio State University College of Medicine. Now, not only did he have the stress that comes along with being a medical student, but he also had the added emotions of his mother's illness. Before they knew it, the Shaffers were celebrating Christmas. Christmas 2005 was also the first Christmas Brian and Alexis spent together. Renee wanted to give Brian and Alexis something special for Christmas, and knowing how much her son loved the beach, she thought of the perfect gift: a spring break trip for two to Miami, Florida. Brian was so excited about the trip, he spent hours upon hours on his computer planning out every detail. The excitement for the trip was soon placed on the back burner when Renee's health began to decline. While in the hospital, Brian spoke to his mother about many things, one being his relationship with Alexis. Not only did Renee want Brian to become a doctor, but she wanted him to get married and start a family. And Alexis, a sweet and kind-hearted woman much like herself, would be the perfect choice for a wife. Brian and Renee spoke about a proposal, and Renee even asked the doctor she worked for to suggest a jeweler for Brian, which he did. March 6, 2006, Renee Shaffer, the matriarch and glue of the Shaffer family, passed away. The loss was felt by everyone that knew and loved Renee. Brian's grief was overwhelming, but he managed as any of us do when faced with a loss. The day of Renee's funeral was something Brian wasn't ready to face. No one likes saying goodbye, and Brian wasn't the exception. After being over an hour late to the funeral, Brian came to say goodbye to the woman he loved more than anything. In the 3 weeks following Renee's death, Brian would go about his days while dealing with his grief and the pressures of his upcoming finals. Brian joined his friends, including Clint Florence, for St. Patrick's Day festivities on March 17, 2006. Meredith Reed also took part in the festivities. With the drinks flowing, a disagreement happened between the three, and the night came to a sudden end. Brian left the party and returned to his apartment. Meredith then followed Brian to his apartment, and Clint followed Meredith. Around this time, Brian asked Alexis to run away with him. Whether this was a joke or an extreme reaction to his mother's death and pending finals is unknown. However, the next week, Brian would again make a strange comment to Alexis. This time, he told her that she should move on with her life and find someone else since he was having a difficult time dealing with his mother's death. The following week would be Brian's medical school finals. Even though he wasn't looking forward to finals, he was looking forward to the end of the week. He had plans that Friday to have dinner with his father, followed by drinks with friends. The week passed, and it was finally Friday, March 31st, 2006. Alexis unexpectedly had to make a trip home to Toledo to see her family and sick dog before her and Brian left Monday for their trip to Miami. This brings us to the day of Brian's disappearance. This is where I'm going to change the episode up a little bit. I feel like we know a little bit more about Brian as a person and the things he was doing in his life up until his mysterious disappearance. I think there is no better way to understand someone than talking to the person themselves. Since we can't go to Brian, I decided to go back to the one thing that I know is directly from him, his Myspace. I know some people may have already read his Myspace through the years, but I want to read a little bit from it. His page shows his information was updated in March 2006, so some of the information was updated shortly before his disappearance and right after the death of his mother. I'm going to start with his About Me section. Brian stated the following: I am a second-year medical student at Ohio University, only 2 years to go. I have an awesome and amazing girlfriend. She's super hot and lots of fun. I really love music, and this whole doctor thing is really just a job. Only temporary until I can get my band together and put out a record. I want to own my own island someday, or at least a beach so I can listen to Buffett all day and drink margaritas with my senorita. I play guitar. I also have lots of talents, and it would take too long to list them. And English is not one of them. If you have any medical questions, feel free to send them to me. Although right now I don't know much about medicine, but the only way to learn is from mistakes, right? So why not? When Brian was asked who he'd like to meet, he stated, Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam, because he helped hair metal come to an end. I would also like to burn one with Bob Marley. I want to be an alien when I'm reincarnated, but not the wussy kind, the kind from the movie Aliens. The interest section on Brian's MySpace states the following. I will begin with the general section. My girlfriend, hanging with friends, enjoying life, drinking, traveling anywhere, random road trips, playing/listening to music, OSU football, tennis, working out, running, the beach, deep-sea fishing, watching movies, skiing, I'm horrible, big dogs, medicine and science, the boring stuff to most, doing things with my mom, who was the greatest, most wonderful person in the world. In the music section, Brian lists different bands and artists that he listens to. They are as follows: Pearl Jam, Oasis, Nirvana, The Verve, Blind Melon, Richard Ashcroft, Hard-Fi, 80s, Stabbing Westward, The English Beat, Coldplay, Ben Harper, Pavement, Dinosaur Jr., AFI, Information Society, Third Eye Blind, Joy Division, Arctic Monkeys, Death Cab for Cutie, Our Lady Peace, Black Lab, Dave Matthews Band, The Shins, 9 Inch Nails, Radiohead, Static X, Billy Ocean, Block Party, Angelfish, The Dreaming, Fiona Apple, The Doors, The Gin Blossoms, The Flaming Lips, The Smiths, New Order, Garbage, Hall & Oates, The Music, Nada Surf, Wolfmother, VHS or Beta, Guns N' Roses, Afghan Wigs, Bob Marley, Elton John, Belle and Sebastian. In the movie section, Brian listed the following movies that he liked: Gladiator, The Godfather 1 and 2, Apocalypse Now, What Women Want, Aliens, Wedding Crashers, The Lord of the Rings, Angelina Jolie movies, Black Hawk Down, King Kong, Star Wars, the older ones, Hotel Rwanda, Donnie Darko, From Hell, Leviathan, Rushmore, Anchorman, and The Matrix. In the section for TV shows, Brian listed the following: Grey's Anatomy, The OC, History Channel, Hollywood True Stories, ESPN Poker, Judge Judy, Saved by the Bell, Mythbusters, Tennis, Stupid Reality Shows, and Skinamax. For books, Brian lists Da Vinci Code, Lord of the Rings Trilogy, Michael Crichton books, Angels and Demons, and Roald Dahl books. For his hero, Brian states, Me mum, she will always inspire me to do my best, and I don't want to let her down. Now I want to go through a couple things that I feel I learned about Brian, not only from his MySpace page, but also the conversations I have had with people through the years that knew Brian. Before I even began speaking to people, Brian's sarcastic personality jumped out at me on his MySpace profile. From offering his medical advice to his love for Skinamax had me cracking up. I am not the only one Brian had this effect on. I have heard Brian described as handsome, intelligent, outgoing, shy, cocky, and a good kid. But the one thing everyone said is Brian was a free-spirit jokester/prankster that always had them cracking up. His cousin Dan described to us on Comeback the free spirit in Brian. From repeatedly changing his appearance to quitting tennis, and from the rocker lifestyle to the doctor lifestyle, Brian swung from one extreme to the next, enjoying his life and staying true to his beliefs, all while trying to obtain his dreams and the dream his mother had for him. On March 31st, 2006, Brian Shaffer was dealing with not only the passing of his mother, but also medical school and a lot of strained relationships. The relationship between Brian and his father Randy was heavily strained and not at all the way it has been portrayed in the media. The relationship between Brian and Clint always seemed to be surrounded with alcohol and some form of altercation. From Brian being punched while with Clint at an Ohio State football game, to the numerous arguments between the two, including the night Brian went missing, it seems Clint and Brian had a very troubled relationship. We all already know most of the stressors in Brian's life, but the one stressor I think was the biggest was Brian trying to find himself. We will go more in depth on this in future episodes. Did you know Brian Shaffer? If so, we would love to speak to you. If you can prove you are connected to Brian Shaffer, please contact us at one of the many methods listed in the show notes. Even the smallest piece of information could help us get a better understanding of Brian Shaffer, the person. Make sure you tune in next week on our Brian Shaffer Dead or Alive blog talk radio station for our first live Q&A. We will release information on our social media about how to call in. All links to our social media can be found in the show notes. Brian Randall Shaffer, a second-year medical student at The Ohio State University, is a missing adult from Columbus, Ohio. Brian was last seen on April 1st, 2006 on CCTV outside the Ugly Tuna Saloona at 1:55 a.m. He was 27 years old at the time of his disappearance and would be 40 years old today. Brian is a white male that is approximately 6 foot 2 inches tall and 170 pounds with brown hair and hazel eyes. He was last seen wearing an olive green polo shirt with a long sleeve white shirt underneath, denim jeans, and white tennis shoes. He was also wearing a yellow cancer awareness bracelet. Brian has a black spot on his left iris and a Pearl Jam Stickman tattoo on his upper right arm. If you have any information on the disappearance of Brian Shaffer, please contact the Columbus Police Department at 614-645-4545. You can follow Brian Shaffer Dead or Alive on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Don't forget to join our private Facebook group to discuss each episode. Listen to Brian Shaffer Dead or Alive podcast on Podbean, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, and many other listening sites. Don't forget to check out our new blog talk radio show after each episode for a live Q&A. Schedules will be posted on our social media. To hear about more of Ohio's missing loved ones, tune into my other podcast, Missing in Ohio. Each episode features a different missing person from Ohio and their story. You can find Missing in Ohio on all the listening platforms where you listen to Brian Shaffer Dead or Alive. Thank you for listening to Brian Shaffer Dead or Alive, Chapter 1, The Man Behind the Mystery. Tune in next time for Chapter 2, Into Thin Air.